Hey guys, welcome back. So today I want to talk about firearms ownership and the fact that not every gun you buy has to serve some sort of tactical purpose. You are allowed to buy guns that are just simply fun to shoot, that by today's standards aren't, tactically approved. So that's what today's video is about, talking about some guns that are just simply fun to own that might not be your best tactical choice. So before we get started with today's video, guys, if you enjoy the content that we produce here at the Military Arms channel, please take a moment to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell. It helps us out here at the Military Arms channel. Also comment down below. We'll stick around for the first day or so after a video goes live to answer the questions you guys may have. With all that being said, let's get started with today's video. If you guys haven't checked out primaryarms.com, please swing by and check them out. If you use the code MAC, M-A-C, at checkout, you'll get a free scope mount if you purchase one of their magnified optics, and that's for the PA labeled optics. If you pick up a red dot sight or a prism sight that already has a mount on it, you'll get a free kill flash, which is an anti-reflective device for your optic. So please check them out. They have outstanding customer support. They have fast shipping and lots of products to choose from, and you can find them over at primaryarms.com. All right, so the P50 from Keltec. When I first posted the video on this gun, man, the comment section was really interesting because I had so many people saying it serves no purpose. It serves no practical or tactical purpose. And I would disagree with that. Well, I would agree that perhaps this is not very high up on the food chain when it comes to firearms I would choose for personal defense. But again, this goes back to my notion that not every gun you buy has to be tactically approved. You're allowed to buy guns that are just fun to shoot. And the P50 is certainly fun to shoot. It chambers the 5.7 by 28, which the more guns that chamber that, the better the chances are that more ammunition will be produced. The cost of the ammunition will come down. So I like it from that regard. Ruger did the same thing with their 5.7 pistol. But this little gun is a typical Keltec type of product. You have extensive use of polymers and things like that, but it uses the P90 magazine. And these things are generally available when there's not panic buying going on, but they also have magazines like the one that it ships with that are not FN magazines that are even more affordable and generally even more available, which actually seem to work pretty well in the gun. If you want to see a whole video on the P50, you can find that in our video library. But this gun is just a lot of fun to shoot. Despite the fact that it looks heavy and awkward, it's easily shot as a handgun, or I should say it's shootable just like a handgun. I believe there's a company working on a brace for it or a stock. And that's one thing that I would say that I wish that it had back here was better facilities, maybe a pick rail or something back here to attach a stock to if you wanted to form one it. But somebody's working on it. There is a solution to that if you do want to use it more as an SBR or something like that. But you can just leave it in its pistol configuration like this, and it's still a ton of fun to shoot. And it's surprisingly accurate. So, again, this gun serves for me as a fun gun to shoot. It definitely brings a smile to my face. You can put a can on it, which we did in our video about this gun. It's just a lot of fun to shoot. And so check out guns like that. Look into guns that look fun to shoot and don't be shamed by the public, the online community for buying something that's just fun. All right, let's take a look at another gun that's fun to shoot, but doesn't really serve a tactical purpose. Now, I know this one's going to cause some people to turn their heads and go, what? But the M1 Garand, and yes, I know it's Garand, but the U.S. Army called it the Garand, so it's good enough for me to call it the Garand. The M1 Garand is one of those rifles that got us through the Second World War. The American public is in love with this gun, even if they don't own one or even if they're not gun owners. Most people could identify this rifle because of the fact that it got us through World War II. By today's standards, this is not a modern military fighting rifle. This is not a tactical rifle. You're not going to put a bunch of rails and night vision and stuff on an M1 Garand. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's done it, but it's not really practical. It has an internal 8-round magazine, uses an N-block clip, and, by World War II standards, this was extremely advanced, but by 2021 standards, it's just not. Could you use this one for home defense? Yeah, you could. And there's probably somebody out there that is insistent upon using an M1 Garand as their go-to rifle even in 2021, but in practical senses, no, it's not. But it's a lot of fun to shoot, and it's a piece of history. If you've ever watched Band of Brothers or anything like that, who wouldn't want one of these classics? But if people were looking for a firearm for home defense, a truck gun, whatever, this would be pretty low on my list of firearms that I would recommend. So yeah, but 30-06, lots of fun to shoot, fairly readily available, especially in a normal market. The guns are accurate. There's plenty of competitions you can use them in, but yep, not my first choice for a defensive firearm. This is my clone build, thanks to Tommy Built, does amazing work. They also sell the TG36, which is a US-made clone of the G36 rifle made by H&K. He did this conversion for me. This started life as an SL8, the single stack 10 round abortion that HK brought in. Mine was gray. They just recently reintroduced the unfortunate looking thing to the US market again, but it makes a great base rifle for something like this, either turning it into a G36 or turning it into an XM8. So what is the XM8? Well, originally this was a trials rifle in the early 2000s that the US military was actually looking at adopting, and it's nothing more than a G36 with a different facade on it. It just cosmetically is different than a G36, but internally it was a straight up G36. Being that this is a clone, it is not something that I would choose as a fighting rifle or a go-to rifle. This rifle is more or less for fun. It just looks cool. If you take this to the firing range, a public range, people are going to go, wow, is that really an XM8? Because anybody that's played video games in the early 2000s will instantly know what this is because it was so common in video games. It never made it through the trials process. The testing was stopped. The gun did not become our service rifle. But that doesn't stop the fact that this thing has really, really broad recognition among especially gamers. This one has an original Insight optic on it. These have been increasingly hard to find. I've had this rifle for many years, but even when I went out to look for this optic many years ago, it was very difficult to find. So finding one now would be even more difficult, but I've seen them with Comp M2s and Comp M3s back here that looks pretty good. If you still want to make one, you can. I think Tommy Built will still do it if you contact him. You pick up one of those new SL8s. They're black now versus gray. You can send it to him, and I believe he can still make an XM8 out of it. You're going to have to source some of the parts and things like that, or he'll get them for you. I would imagine, I don't remember what the conversion cost was, but it's fairly significant, probably as much as you would pay for the rifle. But in the end, you would have something like this. Again, not something that I think is, this would not even be on my list. Even I put the M1 Garand before this in terms of a rifle I would choose to defend my home with if I had to. It's just a clone, and even though it's a clone, it's still durable. It's not like you're going to break it easily, but Tommy Built fabricated all these parts himself to make the gun functional. So this is all his homemade stuff, if you will. He does such an amazing job. But shooting this thing is just so much fun. Now, I have a G36 clone as well, but this is more fun to shoot for me because I am a video game player and I remember this gun so vividly. It's really, really cool. Now, I have the Stenag magazine adapter on here. I have another adapter that allows it to use standard G36 magazines, but this is just a simple pinned-on piece. You just unpin it, rock it down, rock in the new magwell, and then you can run G36 mags in it. But the stock on this doesn't fold. It just telescopes. The Insight original sight that has a laser and everything on it. And yeah, then you have the charging handle up here, just like a G36. This is your carrying handle, if you will. And this is even rubberized. So it feels like what I would imagine an original would feel like. I never had the opportunity to handle an original, but yeah, just a very, very cool piece of history, US military history, and certainly a very cool piece of gaming history, but not something I would say is tactical by 2021 standards. Over the years, we've seen companies do things like this. This is a LevTech lever action rifle. I believe it has Citadel on the side. This is a 357 Magnum /38 Special lever action rifle. It has polymer furniture. It has a big John Wayne lever loop on it. It has a rear aperture sight with a 1913 pick rail mounted to the barrel up here. And then it has an M-LOK handguard that gives you, mounting solutions for optics and, PECs and, forward hand stops or vertical grips, whatever you want to put on it. And then the barrel is also threaded. On the end, we have a suppressor from Griffin Armament. I'm not sure why guns like this exist. I think companies that manufacture lever actions were hoping that they could do things like this and the novelty of it would sell the gun. And there are people that went out and bought them. I mean, This one Jason brought from Copper for us to use in this video, and somebody's going to buy it. Somebody will buy this because they're going to think this is a fun gun to shoot because it is out of the norm. Typically, you'll see a lever action like this with wood furniture. You definitely wouldn't see an M-LOK rail on it. The 1913 rail, threaded barrel, although threaded barrels are becoming more popular even on just conventional lever action guns. But this is just an awkward gun. This loop is what I call the John Wayne loop. It is not comfortable to use. It looks cool because Hollywood made it popular. If you ever watch like The Rifleman, things like that, you would see this big loop being used. I think they had it in The Rifleman. It's a little bit before my time, but I always called it the John Wayne lever because a buddy of mine in high school had a Model 94 44 Magnum that he put one of these huge levers on. And you'll see people trying to spin these things. It's unsafe, but also I know from my childhood and trying to spin my buddy's Model 94 with the big loop on it, that even with my long arms with that rifle, when it spins around, this front sight hit me right in the shoulder and just took a big hunk of meat out of my shoulder. So, people that do that, like I said, unsafe, definitely a risk to your shoulder and the tissue that resides on your shoulder. But in terms of picking something like this for a go-to gun, no. But shooting 38 special cowboy loads out of this with a silencer on it is probably one of the most quiet guns I've ever heard shot, because it's like 22 quiet. It's really, really quiet because the bullet still is subsonic and all the propellant gases are pretty much burning in the 16-inch barrel. There's not much left for the can to do. And it seals up the action because it's not, a self-loading firearm. So the action stays sealed, so you won't see gas blowing back here. So it makes a very good suppressor host. This is a Swiss P50-7. Have a whole video on this gun. Absolutely beautiful. It's just a stunning feat of engineering, although it's kind of an ugly duckling. But this one is built from a parts kit. It has a U.S. receiver on it. It's manufactured by Honey Creek Gun Shop. It's right here in Indiana. I'm friends with the owners, or the owner of the gun shop that manufactured this. It's meticulously built. If you put this next to an original, which there are some originals in the United States, you'd be hard-pressed to find any differences between the two. You would think that this was an all-original Swiss-built rifle, but it is from a parts kit. This rifle represents rifles that came post-World War II. This is when nations were struggling to find the perfect assault rifle based on the STG-44 or the Fedorov that was developed in the Soviet Union before the STG-44. Countries were grappling with how to design a select fire rifle and make it practical to use in full automatic, but small and lightweight enough to be, better than the previous generation of infantry rifles. So there's a lot of, struggling going on. That's why the M16 was super lightweight. A lot of use of polymers and aluminum, things like that, to get that weight down. The adoption of the 5.56 chambering from 308 or 30-06 was a big step down in terms of power, but more than adequate for an infantry rifle. So guns like this that came out right after World War II that chamber the 7.5 Swiss, which was their caliber in their previous infantry rifles, the K31 would also chamber this cartridge. It's just a full power cartridge in a relatively big and heavy gun that, again, is more of a shooter than something I would choose in 2021 as a self-defense rifle. It has a very unique operating system. In our video, we talk about it, we break it down, how it shuttles the brass out, things like that. It does fire from a box magazine, so you can quickly reload it, has a carrying handle, has a built-in bipod. It has enough features, a really fine adjustment rear sight. It has the ability to mount optics. It checks all the boxes. But by today's standards, this thing's just an antique. Because it is a replica, it's another reason why I wouldn't consider this as a primary fighting rifle, but really the caliber, the rather odd nature of the gun, it would push me away from it anyway. I would choose something that's more readily available in terms of calibers and something that wasn't an albatross like this thing. But with all that said, I love shooting that gun, and that is the point of this rifle. So of the various guns that I've shown you this afternoon, this one is probably the most viable option of all the guns I've shown you in terms of if you wanted to use something for self-defense. There are magazines out there available for it. These are just extremely hard to come by because Honey Creek Gun Shop only produces a handful of them, and the parts kits are rather limited. If you go out and buy one of the originals, you're going to pay through the nose. I don't even know what they're worth in 2021. Yeah, it's just not something that I would recommend. Beautiful gun though, accurate and fun to shoot. I obviously recommend that you guys do have a modern fighting rifle, defensive pistol, perhaps a defensive shotgun, whatever is your preferred weapon of choice. It's a good idea to have a modern fighting system just for your own self-defense. And, you know, there's a number of reasons why you should have something like that. But don't forget that there are guns out there that you can look at and go, it doesn't really serve a practical/tactical purpose, but I think I want to buy that because it looks like it's going to be fun to shoot. Don't let people at the firing range or online shame you for owning something that you think is fun or unique or different. Just go buy it and shoot it and enjoy it. Don't care what other people think. And that's kind of the point of this video, guys. I'm sure that you have firearms out there that you either own or want to own that fit the fun to shoot category and not so much the tactical category. Comment down below. Of course, we've just given you a very small snapshot of some of the firearms I wanted to use to demonstrate what I can't really call it an argument, the discussion that I wanted to have today. But there are a lot more guns out there that would fall into this category of firearms. Just fun to shoot, not so practical. So again, comment down below. We enjoy reading those comments. It helps us out tremendously here at the Military Arms Channel. Guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that in the age of demonetization is to become part of our Patreon family. There's a link down below. If you join our Patreon family, you'll get early access to videos like this one. You'll have direct access to me. I answer all private communications, and we've built a really fun online community. Again, there's a link to Patreon in the description below. Also, right here on YouTube, got a little join button right underneath the video player you're watching right now. Click that join button and support us right here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thank you guys for 13 years of support. We'll talk to you soon.